Have you ever lost someone very dear to you? Because I know for us as a family, we haven't really gone through extreme deaths like other people. Like other people have lost parents, they've lost siblings. Whoa.
Best friend lost is crazy also. Like
Yeah.
that has hands, brother.
Yeah.
Sure.
I remember our friends, Ulebuno Tsaho, who is such a fan of the show. Shout out to you, girl. Yes, queen. They mentioned how when their mother lost her best friend,
Sure.
they recall the state their mother was in. And it was like, yo, yeah, shugutige, even a best friend in J, it's just itaf leonto, you know? So
Yeah.
like right now we're actually living in that privilege
Yeah.
of still having both our parents around.
Yeah.
And I thank God for that, Uguti. You can be in your 30s and say your parents are still alive and I'm still here as well. But that's not the story for everyone.
Yeah.
People have had miscarriages.
Sure.
People have lost children while they're at a very young and tender age, you know? So have you gone through death, and what was that experience like for you?
I have. I think the crazy, like it's sad and it's sore, and I cried hectically. I bawled my eyes out. Cause like I think there's the confusion of like, how do you just cease to exist? Like, sure, someone, like you get the phone call, they say Mang Mang passed away, but like the more you process it, the more it's like, sheesh, like this timeline ceases to exist while mine continues, and I'm
Yeah.
supposed to somewhat still be the same.
Yeah.
There's things like talking about that person in the past tense now, which is crazy. Or you have a memory, or you have like a moment where you want to text them and you remember like this person didn't move or leave the
Yeah.
country, like they're offline, dog.
Yeah.
Like telephone to Jesus, like
Oh.
Lord, I got some things, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I'll just park it there. Same question to you.
Yes, I have. And I think that was the first time I lost. Well, there was Untatem Hulu, right? Our grandfather. And I think because like we wouldn't see him all the time, like every day, because he stayed in Amanskral, but obviously like the moments that we would get to have with him, we always treasured those moments, you know. And I definitely still wish that he was still alive, just to see the women that we've become. But I think it didn't hit as hard as when I lost a friend of mine because of the dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah.
You know?
That was like someone you saw every day.
Yeah. Being Pila and I lived with this person, you know, not in the house, but like seeing them all the time. And so now it's like, how do we go from seeing you all the time to not seeing you all the time?
Yeah.
And also because of the age, like this person was young. And then with our grandfather, you know, grandparents die.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's a circle of life, you know? So I think when I lost this friend, it tore me, bruh. Like I had never cried like that in me life.
Yeah.
And I remember you were there the night that
You found out.
yeah, the night that we found out. And honestly, like it was, I didn't know how I would wake up and not feel this heaviness. But I'm like, here I am right now and I don't have that heaviness.
Yeah.
And it's because God really does take you through a healing process.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I think sometimes we don't even realize how much God has healed you from the pain of loss. Because I remember my Bible study teacher once said that before he was saved, when he lost his mother at 13, there was just this never-ending pain that followed him even years after, it was sitting here. It was so heavy. But when he got saved, that heaviness left.
Wow.
And for me, I was like, that is actually insane how you're like being with God, like having that relationship with God has so many perks, if I can call it. And sometimes we don't even realize those perks because we're already in it. But then should you find yourself outside of a relationship with God, having had experience being in a relationship with God, you know, there's just that emptiness and you'll definitely feel a difference, you know, and that's why you'll find people that have tried to leave the faith come back because they know, they've tasted and they've seen, right?
Yeah.
They know what it's like to be in relationship with God, and we kind of take for granted the perks that come with being in a relation, the protection, you know, the covering that comes with being in a relationship with God. So that covering, that caring, it might not feel like it's there in the moment because you're currently going through it, but it's also part of character building where you learn to cling on to him instead of reject him, because a lot of people do blame God for death. You know, they're like, why would you take this person away? Especially people stop believing in God because of experiences they've had with death, where it's like, you took my mother away. How does a good God do that?
Sorry, can I interject there? So how do you as a Christian answer that? If someone says because I need to say, sure, God takes,
Yeah.
and he do be doing that as the author and
Yeah.
finisher and stuff. So like, how do you sort of, I don't know if it's reconcile.
Yeah.
Is that the right word? Like, how do you
Yeah.
make peace with that, or how do you make someone understand that or share your perspective as a Christian? Guti? Like, I feel like the question has been asked.
If I'm being honest with you, it's one of those things that I struggle with in terms of like trying to make someone understand, because there's so much theology that goes into it. Firstly, it's how do you make someone understand that God operates in an unfathomable wisdom, you know, that your current brain cannot process his wisdom. You have a limited amount of understanding. God has 100% understanding, and he is all-knowing, all-powerful, you know, and omnipotent. So now it's like, okay, how do you explain that to someone? Because it also takes knowing God to understand. So when you don't know God and his character and the loving father that he is already, then it becomes harder to explain to someone who's just Christian because they grew up in church, or, you know, but they don't have a relationship with God. So it's that thing of, do you know who God is? So it's like, if you were to do something that I took offense to, I have to understand who you are as a person. Uguti, no. That's not the message behind this. That's not what's going on. And then we can have a conversation. And then you can clarify things for me, you know? But now if I didn't have a relationship with you, I'll just take it as, oh, lo muntu sile, you know? So I think I really struggle, and I've heard it before from people where they've said that they've believed and they've prayed, and then
Shucks.
it just didn't happen. And, you know, it's valid shame, because, you know, you really put your belief in the fact that if I pray to this God who hears me and who sees me, he will answer me because he cares for me and he loves me. But as I continue in my relationship with God, I realize that a really important factor in doing life with God is living a life where you are fully surrendered. Meaning that even when you pray for something and it doesn't happen, you need to still be able to say God is good, and he loves me and he cares for me, and he's working things out for my good, and he knows why he's doing the things that he's doing. He is operating from a wisdom that I cannot fathom, you know? And you have to make peace with that. And I think the wrestle comes when people don't make peace with that, when they don't make peace with the fact that this is God.
Yeah.
Like, this is God. Like, this is how he does things. And because we have this controlling nature in us and this wanting to always reason things, it kind of messes up with the faith.
Yeah.
You know, so I really do struggle with that. It's easier for me to comfort a believer than it is for me to comfort a non-believer, because if anything, anything that I might say, I feel like it might draw you even more away from God, because I'm like, what do you mean you're telling me to just believe that he's still a good God and that he's working for my good and that he loves me and that he's close to the brokenhearted? Because in their mind they believe Uguti. Exactly. Because in their mind they're believing that this act was evil. This was bad. There is no way that a good God, you know how people say, like, how can a good God do this? And it's like, there's so many layers to it in terms of explaining the character of God. Yeah, but I don't know if you would have an answer for that. Like, have you had an encounter with someone who's a non-believer and you know, that question.
I think from my perspective, because I know that my brain is very small in comparison to what God knows and what he does, and I understand that he literally operates and runs the entire universe, the heavens, the earth, every fabric of life and beyond. And I only know like a little smidge that my brain can actually comprehend. So with my limited knowledge, how can I like try to blame or to understand or to be, well, being upset is valid, but like because I also have a wrestle with God, like healthy wrestles where I don't understand why you moved the way you did. And I didn't like it. It wasn't cool. You know? But at some point I rest secure in knowing that he is God. And if anything, it makes me want to get to know him more, because if I blamed you or I was upset with this, because firstly I am human. And so I try not to negate or to invalidate my feelings, but it makes me want to know his character a lot more and to want to dig deeper so that I have a more extensive knowledge of who he is, so that when something happens and it's not even according to my plan, I know from like from the get-go, it's, oh, God got this. Like he's, you know, but at the moment it's still like, I still have moments where I'm like, sure, it feels like the principalities are winning, you know, it kind of feeling like the weapons formed against like me. Job. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, I don't know the conversations that are being had in the heavens because I'm here, a mere mortal on earth. You know, so I think just when you understand the small fraction of information that you know and can physically comprehend in comparison to what he knows, it sort of humbles you. And you're like, you know what? You're doing great, Dad. You keep going. And
I think the book of Job, in the last few chapters, where God is essentially responding to Job after the calamity that has happened in his life, where he lost his children, he lost his riches, and his wife walked away from him. And God asks him questions, reflective questions. Were you there when I laid the foundations of the earth?
Because were you?
Were you there?
Were you really?
And that question is rhetorical in the sense that, Uti, you are not God. You will never be God. You will never know what it's like to be God. You cannot fathom my power. You cannot fathom me. Already, coming to terms with the concept of faith is not an easy thing. No matter how long you've been in this journey, you always have to remind yourself, faith. And that's why we have atheists, because as humans, we want to make sense of things. But faith doesn't make sense of things. So now you're trying to make sense of God, who you cannot see. And then now you're trying to understand how he functions. Like,
It's crazy, girl.
like a person can go crazy.
Literally,
You know?
like faith is impossible.
Yeah.
It makes no sense at all.
It makes no sense at all. But back to what I was saying, that he asks Job these reflective questions, which kind of humbles him as well. Like what you were saying, that, you didn't appreciate whatever happened and the way it happened, but then you're kind of humbled the more you have a revelation of
Who
God.
God is.
And that's what happened to Job, where the more God was speaking, the more of a revelation that he was getting of God, that actually God, like, "Ngiyaxolisa, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Like I was so caught up with what I was going through that, all it took for me was to get to know you. And sometimes even getting to know him doesn't give you the answer as to why that happened, but it draws you closer to him. Like it's so crazy how getting to know him has the power of healing you and not giving you answers. It just comforts you to know that your life is in his hands, in such a great God's hands. And so I think that's actually really great advice for whenever someone is going through a very painful season or they've lost someone. Like, ask questions.
Yeah.
It's not like
He's
you
not
must
scared
just,
of your questions.
he's
also.
not scared of your questions. And if you're feeling away, like, tell him, like, that's why he's there and he
Yeah.
understands. Like, I don't think God gets mad when we get upset at the fact that we're upset with him for, taking someone that was really important to us.
Yeah.
If anything, I think he would like us to use that as an opportunity to approach him and say, "Hey, God, what's up with that? Why'd you do that? I was praying. I applied faith, as scripture says. I was knocking on the door.
Played by the book.
I played by the book, the holy book, but still I didn't get the result that I was hoping to get."
Yes.
And it happens so many times in so many different ways, not even in just death, but, your hopes, your
Life.
dreams, life, and Jerry,
Period.
But that should open an opportunity for you to approach your father, to ask him, like, "Hey, why did that happen? Like, let's talk about." God wants to talk about it, but we kind of just already make conclusions. Uguti, he doesn't want good things for me.
Yeah.
I'm meant to have bad experiences. This is my life. And it's something that I believed for a while. I believed that I don't deserve nice things, that I only get, not the things that I ask for, not things that I pray for.
Yeah.
And I had to unlearn that. And he showed me as well, in those experiences, that I'm not always going to say yes to everything, but you need to trust me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give you everything at once. But you also need to trust that I'm God and the things that I do are for your good. It might not feel like it, but I think that's why you always need to focus on the goodness of God, because even when the bad happens, you're still able to stand and say, "But
He's
God is
good.
good."
He's a good man,
He's
Savannah.
a good God.
Good God, my fault. Last-ish question. Can we chat about grief?
I need some water.
How, like, thoughts about it in general? Like, how would you advise someone who's currently going through grief, and how would you advise people that are sort of trying to support a friend who's going through grief? Because from my observation and from what I've seen, is that it expresses itself differently. Sometimes you think someone's okay and then they're not, and then it feels like they're going back to square one. It's not a copy and paste situation. So the way I show up for a friend who's gone through grief here is not the same way I show up for that friend, is not the same way I show up for that friend. And I've gotten it wrong recently. I low-key upset a friend when I tried to check in and I asked the wrong question, but that's a question that I asked the previous friend who was okay with the question. And now I felt bad. But
Yeah.
something that I was mindful of was do not make it about you. Because I could have explained that, no, actually, I asked this
Yeah.
because but in my brain, I was like, Breda, this person has just experienced loss.
Yeah.
If this is how they're dealing and coping with it, just be patient and kind and give space where needed,
Yeah.
but also be close where needed. So yeah, what you gotta say about that,
What's your
Samaj?
question?
Grief. What advices or thoughts do you have on it?
I think, experiencing, like having an experience like us where we haven't really gone through grief as much as other people. And when it's a situation that you've never experienced, sometimes it feels hard because you can't say, I understand.
Because you
Because
don't.
you don't, you know? And it's something that makes me nervous because it challenges me in my relationships. Because now I'm like, yo, sorry. Because now I'm like, what do I do? How can I show up for this person? Now I'm speaking about grief for when you are trying to show up for someone, not for when you are going through it. So I found it very helpful to always ask questions, not to ask the question. What do you need? How can I be there for you? Like it's like you're a caterer to them. Like, how can I cater for you in this time? Especially because if I'm being honest, I don't know what you're going through, but I really want to be there for you. And sometimes maybe they don't have the answers. And so we just do what we can, and it's to show love, it's to shower love, it's to show up, because they're also probably trying to understand how they're feeling.
Yeah.
But I think they remember the presence of people.
Yeah.
They remember that, no, Lomuntu, this person was here when I was having a really difficult time, And then as for you as a person, when you're going through grief, I think, first of all, just picking up from the experience I had with my friend, is that, first of all, your brain feels like it's not working because you're trying to understand what just happened, especially because you've prayed. Like, we were praying for her.
Yeah.
We were praying and we were really believing, and she was showing signs of recovery.
was.
And then, ho, like, what do you mean? So it's like your brain is not working, because it's like such a shock to your system, and you're trying to understand what's actually going on. But what I found to be helpful was to be in grief with others.
Okay.
Like, not to do, like, don't lock yourself up.
Because that's what grief does, I think. It makes you want
It
to
closes
isolate.
you off.
Yeah.
Don't isolate.
Okay.
Like, even like, I remember you were there. You didn't say much, but you were there. You slept next to me, and I remember our parents were not home at the time, but you stayed with me, and you're someone who you love your bed.
Because
you
what a
love
bed.
your bed.
What a bed, what a wow. What a location.
But you were there with me. You sat with me. You held me, and that's something that I remember. But I think having you around helped. And I was never given an opportunity to isolate and to be by myself.
Yeah.
Because I had people around me and other friends that we lost someone together. We cried together. That has a healing aspect to it.
Yeah.
That it really does have a healing aspect to it. But I would also say, talk to someone, because people experience grief in the most like different ways.
Yeah.
Other people, they don't cry. And it's only like years later when the crying starts. It's like, I don't know, grief is something,
It's insane.
It's insane, So I would say, like, talk to someone even when you're not, if you, have you ever asked someone, how are you feeling? They're like, I'm okay. It's like, bro, like in your mind you're like, but you shouldn't. It's because a trauma of sorts where your mind, bro, is just like, this
through
is
it.
too unfathomable
Yeah.
that my brain is just gonna clock out and say, nah, I'm good, you know? So I would say talk to someone. I always advise people, talk to someone, and I lead them to the right person. I know my friend Natasha, she's really great with helping people in pastoral care when it comes to topics of grief. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What would you say? Around.
Retweet.
Cool.
Last one. What is your death? Hear me out.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable. You can't escape it. There's even Chuck Norris passed away.
Sure, too soon, dog. It literally happened
Yeah.
5 days ago.
Even Chuck Norris passed away. It's inevitable. So I guess it's just that thing of make peace with it
Yeah.
and have a healthy relationship with it because it's inevitable. Yeah. You?
At funerals, let the family rest.
Hey.
Because what do you mean you guys are trying to be served by the people that are grieving? Why are the kids the ones with their duke and dresses trying to bring trays of scones and juice to you guys?
Bro.
You as a people should be the ones serving them. Like that's a concept that I
love
never
that.
understood.
I love
Even
that.
funerals, like why is my family cooking? They're supposed to be grieving.
Yeah.
And why are they the ones paying mountains? Guys, eat at your houses,
Eat
come
at your
to
homes.
the funeral.
And don't complain about
full.
the chicken being dry.
Bro, it's a funeral.
Samantha.
You know? Yeah, so let the funeral be a healthy space for the family to grieve and to have closure, because I feel like it's become about everyone else but the actual family.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do better.
And even in that moment, like when someone passes away, there's other stresses that arise.
They have to
immediately.
do admin, dog. 600 certificate.
Dude, you have to go to Home Affairs.
You have to go claim system offline.
It's also that thing you would see, what am I going to feed these people?
And then
I need to feed people. Like that shouldn't be a stress.
Crazy, dog.
Hey, man, if I don't feed y'all.
That's what I was about to say. Like, sorry.
Hate me if you want. But
womp womp.
Stampa sabona, siko kai.
Yeah.
It's at your house. Go eat it.
Lock it back. I think that's a wrap from us, friends.
Yeah. Wow, we were actually serious.
Shut up.
This was the most serious we've ever been.
I don't think so. I think we've been doing good lately.
No, but like in terms of like longevity.
And I think we handled it with tact and the respect that it deserves as a topic.
Because I think we can't just be laughing all the time when you're like, oh man, you know, when I win.
Okay, thanks, friends.
Bye.
Bye.